What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Jacob Wall Fishing. Today we're going to go over side scan. We're going to go over just some basics. I'm going to show you guys, hopefully show you guys some fish. I'm going to show you guys some structure. I'm going to show you how I look for harder bottom versus softer bottom, how I basically differentiate what I see on side scan. So stay tuned, guys. Hopefully you enjoy, and hopefully, most importantly, you learn something. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, like this video if you enjoy it and you learn something. So stay tuned, guys. So first thing, while we're idling out here, I'm going to show you guys a grass line. So you can see right here, this is all kind of, it all looks relatively the same. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on if you're not familiar with looking at side scan. As you can see up here on my down imaging and on my sonar, we've got grass. That's a, you know, if you're not familiar with looking at it, it might be kind of weird, but this is grass. This is actually eelgrass, so it's going to show up as more of a hard line than like hydrilla or milfoil would. But you can see as we get out a little deeper, you can see it's starting to fall off. But what I really want to show you guys is the edge of this eelgrass on my side imaging here. So as you can see, as we get out a little bit further and further, it's starting to get sparser. You can see that on both the sonar and the down, as well as on the side scan. So if you're not familiar with side scan, this middle line, this middle parting line here is actually where the boat is. And then this black is where the water depth is, basically. So this right here, this depth, so we're sitting in 10 feet above the grass. That 10 feet line is right here as well. So that's that. And then this is scanning right now 100 feet to the left, 100 feet to the right. As you can see, as we get off here, look, you can start to see this is clumping out. You have more edges of this grass. There's a really nice hard edge on that grass line right there. But essentially, the way the side imaging and or side scan works is it's panning, or not panning, but it's scanning out to the right. Basically, this is straight under the boat. This is straight under the boat, and then it goes out from there and scans out. So as you can see right here, this is a prime example of a grass line. You guys can see that line, that hard edge of grass, and then out here is actually a nice shell bed. The reason I know that's a shell bed is because of the brighter return that I'm getting on the screen. So I'm getting that real bright return, and as you can see, as we get a little bit further out off the bank, it's starting to get darker. What that means is that the bottom is actually getting softer. So a lot of the times, I know out here on the Tennessee River, we're out on Lake Guntersville today. This is true for a lot of these TVA or Tennessee River lakes. These fish key in on shell beds. So that area back there, another sweet feature on the Lowrance unit is you can touch screen. This is the HDS 16. This is a live unit. I love this unit. It is so phenomenal for scanning. I love the touchscreen feature. I love the fact that I can go back in my history. What I mean by that is I can scroll backwards to what I've already scanned. It's really nice for if you think you might have seen fish but you weren't sure and you want to mark it, or maybe you saw a stump but you weren't sure you wanted to mark it, but then you realized, like, you know, after about 100 yards you did want to mark it, so you can scroll back and mark it. So what I was going to show you guys was that hard shell. That's kind of what we like to look for out here on the Tennessee River. This is on, like, you know, like I said, out on Guntersville today. So real quickly here, before we get going on the rest of this video, I want to show you how I have my screen set up. I know you guys have already seen it, but I want to explain it to you and why I do it this way. So I have my side scan set up at the bottom of the screen here. I like it to be at the bottom, and I like it to be really wide, because that allows me to have the clearest, biggest image of each left and right side of the boat. My down imaging isn't nearly as important, but it is important. I really do rely on this a lot to locate fish. So I have that here, and I have my sonar here. Realistically, I could probably make my sonar a little smaller and make this a little bit bigger, because I do like my down imaging a hair more than the sonar. But then up here on the top left, I have to have my map. This is gonna give me like direct ideas of what to scan. So like points, it's going to show me all my, you know, contours that I'm going to be idling across. So I like my map up in the top. It gives me a good, you know, viewpoint. And then I like to have that a little bit smaller. It's not as important. I don't need a huge screen, because typically I can zoom in or out on there pretty easily if I need to. But this down here, having a big layout for my side scan, is super important. The bigger you have it on the screen, the more detail you're going to see in the side scan. So that's the primary reason why I have it so, you know, so much of the screen. All right, guys, so if you can see this right here, we just came up this break. That right there is a really steep ledge, and the way that I can tell that is due to the shadowing on the ledge. So the taller the shadow, the dark part, the taller the ledge is. As you can see up on top of it here, it's a really nice bright return. So it's clearly shell and rock on the edge here. And this is a great holding place for fish. We actually have a big group of fish out here to the right of the boat. They look too big to be bass though. They look way too big to be bass. One of the ways that I tell is I have my side scan right now set at 100 feet. If they show up that large at 100 feet, they are not bass. You know, because those blips are 2 feet across. I mean, you can just tell once you've seen a few bass, or you know, a few hundred bass I should say, on the screen. As much as you want those fish, those ones I just went over to be bass, they're not. Typically bass are going to be, like I said, a harder dot, a harder return, and it's just going to be a dot, dot, dot. It's not going to be blurry, it's not going to be tall, it's just going to be a solid dot. But essentially what I'm looking for is I'm looking for differences out here. So that was a great, you know, area there. You can see that ledge. You can see how that runs down there, that seam, but then it kind of, you know, fades back into being more like just tapered. So this little stretch, whatever that is, you know, 60, 80, 100 yard stretch of ledge or rock right there, those fish are either gonna set up right on it or they're gonna set up right above it. But that's the kind of stuff that I like to look for. You don't always have to just find the fish with the side scan. A lot of the times I'll use it to locate the structure, and then sometimes you won't even see the fish in the structure, especially if it's really like jagged, crazy stuff where they could hide. So that's a really, really good way to find fish, is just locate differences like that. Locate those rocky spots or those ledge type spots like that. So guys, here's a really good example of what like soft bottom meeting a harder bottom looks like. That's not a grass line, that's actually just softer bottom out here meeting harder bottom, and I'm turning now, so I'm going back up on the harder bottom. So that's a good transition. It's just like a grass line for, you know, the fish. They're gonna use those edges, even though it's not, you know, standing structure. They're gonna use those hard edges of you know, shell bars or rock piles or, you know, shale or whatever it might be. If it meets up with the softer bottom, they're going to use that contour or that edge to kind of, you know, go down. So keep an eye on those too. That's, you know, that's a key thing to look for that you can find with your side imaging. I really utilize it a lot for finding harder bottom. It, you know, it's easy to decipher where the edges are and where everything kind of starts and ends. So, and I highly recommend when you find something, go over it multiple times, go over it at different angles, go over it once, see what it looks like, mark it, go over it again, try to run right over top of it, see what it looks like, maybe try it again at a different angle. As you can see up here, I've got waypoints and I've got different paths going at different angles. So I'm scanning over the same thing at different angles if it looks promising. So I just went over this big ball of bait fish. You guys can kind of see it right here on the down or on the side imaging. There's that faded kind of blip of bait fish, but if you look up here on my down imaging, there's that giant school of shad that I just went over. Pretty cool. I just wanted to show you guys that. I'm using palette number 10 for my side imaging. That's this amber color. You've got different varieties. You know, this is a really bright, like lava kind of color. You've got like a little bit, you know, more reddish one. You've got more like toned down. This is a good one too. I like this number 5 as well. 9 is good too. It's that blue, the same blue that I'm using at my down imaging. But I really like just that 10. I don't know, it's just that standard kind of yellow amber color. Just seems to be the best, in my opinion. You know, you've got all kinds of crazy ones you could play with. You got, you know, so many different options. You got 10 different options. not a crazy amount, but pretty good amount. You know, this one's kind of cool too. I've never used that one, but that's number 7. Neat. A lot of different options, a lot of different color options, super easy to switch back and forth. I'm running mine right now, contrast at 70. I have my range set at 100. The further you set your range out, the harder it is to decipher what it is you're seeing. The stuff's gonna be really, really small. I typically don't scan much further out than about 100, 120 feet. Really, I don't scan much further out than 100. My go-to is about 80 to 100. If I'm fishing shallow, like if I'm fishing 10 foot or less, I'll scan at like 60. But most of the time when I'm fishing like 10 foot to 30 or 40 or whatever, that deeper water, I'm scanning out to 100 feet. The difference is the shorter distance you scan, the bigger the bass are going to look on there. So a lot of the times you'll be able to find the bass a little bit easier if you have it scanned shorter, but you're not going to be scanning as much distance. So the bass will show up bigger on the screen, but you're not covering as much distance. So once you get used to finding the fish at 100 or 80 feet, you're just increasing your odds of finding them because you're scanning so much more, you know, water when you have it out to 100 feet. But yeah, contrast, I'd recommend taking it off auto, setting it yourself. I have it set at 70, like I said. I just find that to be good. Everybody's got their preference, but that's kind of what I like. Trying to think if there's anything else that's it's really pretty much it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty basic. Just get out and scan. Use your electronics to your advantage. I mean, there's so much to be found out here or out wherever you're fishing with your electronics. You know, not just fish, but like I said earlier, structure. You know, individual pieces of structure or big, you know, changes on the bottom, whether it be a ledge, whether it be a hump, whether it be, you know, whatever it might be, you can find it with your side imaging. It's really good for locating like lay down trees, really good for locating isolated grass patches. I use it a lot down in Florida, believe it or not, to locate holes and edges in the grass. Oh wow, look at that, guys. So right here, it's hard to see on the down or on the side, but right here on the down you can see there's two blips. I don't know if they're bass, but they're some sort of fish, and they're right next to that big school of shad that we just passed over a minute ago. It doesn't necessarily look like they're chasing them, but they're right there next to that school of shad. That's super cool. Sometimes you'll see them and you'll actually see the shad like bowing out of the way from the fish while they're getting, you know, chased. Super cool. So here's an awesome view of a stump field right here on the left side of the transducer, or left side of the screen. You guys can see all those stumps scattered out along there. You can see the shadows of them sticking up. One of the key things that I will tell you guys that I forgot to mention earlier is that I am running a SeaClear power harness in this boat. And what that does is it gives you a much clearer image. The harness just gives these units the power that they need. It just really enhances the clarity of the units. Nathan Martin over there at SeaClear, super great guy. Nathan's a buddy of mine, and he installed this for me earlier this year, and I've been nothing but thrilled with my SeaClear harness. Haven't had like hardly any battery issues at all. If I have, it's been from like sitting on one spot for like a crazy amount of time. But I highly recommend getting the SeaClear harness. It does clear up the side imaging and all your other stuff. It speeds these units up too. It does enhance the speed. When you stop, it starts immediately. You don't have any lag time. It really enhances the performance of these units. So check those out, the SeaClear power harness. Another key thing when you're scanning a ledge or a break, I always tend to scan on top of the break rather than on the deeper side. I feel like I get a much better readout if I'm up on the shallow side of it and like running down the edge of it like this. So as you can see, this is the deeper water out here, and then this is the shallower stuff up here. So scanning up on the edge and reading off the break and then reading up to the shallower part seems to work better. If you ride this deeper line and then try to scan up, you typically don't get to see what's up on the break as good. So I highly recommend scanning, riding on top of the shallower stuff, scanning off the edge rather than sitting in the deeper water scanning up. I mean, obviously you can play with it and see what you like, but that's just what I really prefer to do. Another place that side scan is really useful is bridge pilings, just like this bridge we've got in front of us. I'll show you how I use side scan on these bridge pilings. So what I like to do is I like to scan up pretty close to the bridge. So it might be a little uncomfortable at first, but you probably want to get about 10 or 15 feet away from the bridge. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So here's a bridge piling right here in front of us. We're going to idle up and we're going to stay about 10 feet or so off the bridge. So as you can see, there's a bunch of crazy stuff down here, a bunch of rocks and debris. But what we're going to do is we're going to scan this bridge piling. So here we go. The bridge piling should show up. So there it is. There's the bridge piling. And as you can see, there's fish scattered around the bridge piling. So we can see there's the bridge piling. And what a key feature of this, or the key thing that I use it for, is to see if there's fish suspended around the side of it. So you can actually see the fish suspended around the sides of the bridge piling, and it's a really efficient way to locate the fish next to the piling without actually having to stop and fish them. And this right here, using the side scan to scan the bridge piling and see if there's fish there before you stop, combined with the active target, being able to stop with the trolling motor and actually live see the fish, combining those two things is so deadly. Being able to see if they're there, and if they're there, then you stop, and when you stop, use the active target to see the fish, and you can target each individual fish or each little group of fish. So here, we're gonna scan by these bridge pilings again, a couple different ones, and we'll see if there's fish there. So I can see the piling, it looks like there's a couple fish next to it, so there's really not a whole lot going on next to those two pilings. Very few fish. So let's scan one more. I'm gonna try to find one that's got a bunch of fish on it for you guys so you can see what it looks like. But you can see all this like debris down in here. There's a lot of like, you know, just junk from when they were building the bridge. There's a huge ball of bait fish down there. This looks like like whatchamacallit, like the store mode. Sorry guys, I was gonna try to show you more of the bridge pilings, but there was a guy fishing nearby and he started to get kind of frustrated with me. I didn't think I was getting too close, but apparently he did, so I didn't want to mess around anymore over there. But you guys get the idea. The fish are easily located with the side scan next to the pilings. The key is to scan close. The closer you get to the piling, the much easier it is to decipher whether there's fish there or not. You'd be surprised, the fish might spook off when you first scan them, but when you turn back around, I mean, that's what those fish are relating to. They're going to be there when you turn back around to fish it. But I didn't want to bother those guys anymore. I didn't think I was getting too close, but I didn't want to take a jig to the back of the head either. So we got out of there. We're going to scan some more stuff here. Try to show you guys maybe some more fish. I really think I've pretty well covered everything that I want to explain to you guys. I'd like to also do a video sometime of just fully just side scanning the grass and how I use side scan in the grass. I know I showed you guys some grass lines, but I'd really like to show you a full video of what I look for in the grass. Oh, check this out guys. As I'm talking, we're going over a bunch of fish. I think a lot of those might be carp. You see how big these are stretching out over here on the right side? I mean, we're turning. I don't know, a lot of those might be bass. A good way to tell whether they're carp or whether they're catfish, I know that those are carp. I mean, they're way too big. Some of these are definitely bass though, but good way to tell is you take a crankbait and you burn it through there, and believe it or not, your bait will like deflect off these fish and your line will get covered in slime and stuff. And if you've got a bunch of gooey, nasty slime on your line, then you know for a fact they're catfish or carp or buffalo or something of that nature down there. But that's what those big guys look like on the side imaging. What's up guys? Hey, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something about side scan, about utilizing your Lowrance electronics or any electronics that has that side scan, side view, side imaging capabilities. I know I didn't cover everything, but I did show you guys some fish, showed you guys some structures, showed you guys some grass lines. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you did, like this video and subscribe. And until next time, thank you guys.